I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay?
Russia is escalating its bombing campaign against Ukraine with a massive drone attack hitting cities and towns overnight and into this morning. Ukrainian Air Force officials say more than 355 drones came from Russia last night, and the night before, 298 drones.
All the more so as Russian strikes are becoming increasingly brazen. Over 900 attack drones launched against Ukraine in just 3 days, along with ballistic and cruise missiles.
For the third night in a row, the skies over Ukraine have been set ablaze by relentless waves of drone attacks and missile barrages. Ukrainian authorities reported in the early hours of Monday that Russia launched one of the largest aerial assaults seen since this brutal conflict began. 355 drones and 9 cruise missiles raining down destruction across multiple regions. The devastation has left dozens wounded, many of them civilians caught in the crossfire, and sent shockwaves through the already fragile landscape of Eastern Europe. Massive swarms of combat drones filled the air, darting like deadly swarms of hornets, triggering widespread and desperate air defense efforts. Explosions echoed from Kyiv to Kharkiv, from Dnipro to Zaporizhzhia. Ukrainian defenders scrambled to intercept and neutralize the incoming threats, while civilians huddled in shelters, bracing for yet another night of terror. As the smoke rose, the Ukrainian Air Force issued an urgent alert on Telegram, warning of an imminent new wave of cruise missile strikes by Russia. The sense of dread was palpable, and the country stood tense, preparing for what may come next. But while the war raged on Ukrainian soil, the geopolitical stage was shaking with unexpected drama, one that could alter the course of this protracted conflict. Former US President Donald Trump, who once openly praised Russian President Vladimir Putin as a smart guy and spoke warmly of their relationship, has now delivered a scathing rebuke. In a stunning reversal, Trump declared that Putin had gone absolutely crazy, calling into question everything he once said about the Kremlin strongman. "Putin made me a fool," Trump admitted, visibly agitated in a press conference Sunday evening. His voice carried the frustration and disbelief of someone who believed he was on the verge of brokering peace, only to watch it unravel in the face of devastating violence. "We're in the middle of talking and he's shooting rockets into Kyiv and other cities," Trump said. "I thought we had a chance. Now, I don't know what to think." The gravity of this admission cannot be overstated. Here is a man who, for years, projected an image of cordial relations with Putin, brushing aside warnings about Russian aggression. Yet, faced with the most intense Russian aerial bombardment on Ukraine in 3 years, he is forced to confront a harsh new reality. From Friday through early Monday, waves of Russian drones and cruise missiles pounded Ukrainian cities relentlessly. At least 29 people were killed, including innocent children, and dozens more were wounded, according to Ukrainian officials. Saturday night alone marked the largest single drone and missile barrage since the war erupted in 2022. This was no ordinary strike. It was a statement of brutal intent, a clear message from Moscow that it was prepared to escalate the war further. Just days before the onslaught, Trump and Putin held a pivotal 2-hour phone call. The conversation was framed by Trump as "very well," expressing optimism that Russia and Ukraine might immediately start ceasefire negotiations backed by the US. Yet Putin's response was far more cautious. While Ukraine publicly committed to a 30-day ceasefire, Putin promised only to collaborate on a memorandum for a possible future peace, a vague offer that Kyiv and its European allies interpret as stalling tactics. Since then, talks have stalled. The first direct negotiations between Ukraine and Russia since 2022, held on May 16 in Istanbul, yielded little progress, despite a significant prisoner exchange involving 1,000 detainees from each side. That exchange was a rare breakthrough, but any hope it might herald a de-escalation has since been overshadowed by renewed violence. International pressure on Putin to accept the ceasefire has been mounting. The US and Kyiv have pushed hard for peace, while Moscow's continued aggression has sown doubt over Russia's true intentions. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's warning that America's silence encourages Putin reflects the frustration on Kyiv's side. But Trump fired back, arguing that criticism from Ukraine could complicate delicate diplomatic efforts. "We're doing what we can," Trump said, "but no one wants peace more than me." Meanwhile, the war itself continued unabated. Moscow claimed to have recaptured parts of the strategic Kursk region, an important blow to Ukraine's recent territorial momentum. In a somber address Sunday, Zelensky warned, "The world may go on vacation, but the war continues, and this cannot be ignored." German Chancellor Friedrich Merz echoed the urgency, stating bluntly on Monday, "We must be prepared for this war to last longer than we wish or imagine. The question is whether the US will continue to see it as its responsibility to help Ukraine. In this respect, I hope America stays on board." Merz also weighed in on Trump's shifting tone, noting, "He's clearly growing disillusioned with Putin. That's a shift, and perhaps a necessary one." Indeed, Trump's frustration marks a notable departure from his previous stance, when he often downplayed Russian aggression and resisted sanctioning Moscow. On Monday, Trump posted on his platform Truth Social a statement that was both alarming and revealing. "I've always said that Putin wants all of Ukraine, not just a piece of it, and maybe that's proving to be right. But if he does, it will lead to the downfall of Russia." Trump announced he is now absolutely considering new sanctions against Russia, a move he had previously resisted in hopes of preserving negotiation channels. Amidst this shifting diplomatic landscape, German Chancellor Merz gave Ukraine a bold endorsement on Monday. He gave a clear green light for Ukraine to use Western-supplied weapons to strike military targets deep inside Russia. Ukraine can now defend itself, Merz declared, including, for example, by attacking military positions in Russia. This development signals a significant escalation in the conflict's dynamics. It sends a message that the West is increasingly willing to empower Ukraine to strike back aggressively, even within Russian territory. Predictably, Russia fired back with sharp warnings. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov told Reuters that European countries lifting restrictions on Ukraine's military capabilities would be a dangerous move. "These actions," he said, "go against efforts to find a political solution to the crisis." Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky is expected to visit Berlin on Wednesday to meet with Chancellor Merz, a meeting laden with strategic significance. Zelensky's trip underscores Kyiv's urgent need for sustained Western support as the war intensifies. The stakes could not be higher. So, the question hanging over this volatile landscape is, will Donald Trump trust Vladimir Putin again? Or has the line been crossed, forcing him to finally take strong, decisive action? After years of championing Putin as a smart guy and downplaying the threat he poses, Trump's recent comments signal a potential turning point. His frustration and warnings suggest a man wrestling with the consequences of his past approach, and a leader who may now be ready to back tougher measures. But will this new stance translate into concrete policy? Will Trump push for stronger sanctions, increased military aid, or even a more direct role in negotiating peace? Or is this just another political flare-up, destined to be overshadowed by other headlines? What remains undeniable is the brutal reality on the ground. The war grinds on. Civilians continue to pay the highest price. Cities burn, families suffer, and hope for a lasting peace dims with every missile launched. As the world watches this latest chapter unfold, one thing is clear. The conflict's future and the fragile balance of power between East and West hinges on decisions made in the coming days. Will diplomacy prevail, or will escalation spiral further out of control? For now, Ukraine braces for more attacks. Putin's intentions remain shadowed in uncertainty. And Trump, once a vocal advocate for cozy relations with Russia, faces the profound challenge of recalibrating his position in a rapidly changing world.